What if your insurance company called you like tomorrow morning and just said, you need to install cameras on every single job site immediately, or you completely lose your coverage?
Yeah, that's the nightmare, right?
I mean, I want you to just sit with that for a second. The phone rings, and that is the absolute ultimatum on the other end of the line.
It is exactly the kind of scenario that, keeps a construction business owner awake at night. Mm-hmm. And for a long time, we've talked about this as kind of an extreme hypothetical.
Right, like a sci-fi thing.
Exactly. Something that might happen, I don't know, a decade down the line when the tech gets cheaper and insurers get more aggressive.
But it is not a hypothetical anymore. And it's definitely not happening 10 years from now. I mean, it is happening right now.
Yeah, it really is.
Zurich Insurance is already mandating this exact scenario in New York. And spoiler alert for everyone listening, it is about to roll out nationally.
It's a huge shift.
So our mission for this deep dive today is to unpack this massive seismic shift in the construction industry. We're going to explore the specific technology driving this, the very real psychology of putting cameras on your crew, and, most importantly, we are going to lay out exactly how you, the business owner listening to this right now, need to adapt your operations.
Because you have to stay ahead of the curve here. The reality is the landscape of construction insurance is just shifting right beneath our feet.
Yeah.
Insurers are, frankly, they're tired of paying out massive claims, and they finally have the technological leverage to actually do something about it.
Right.
But, before anyone panics about the sheer cost of buying hundreds of cameras and running like miles of wire across a muddy site, we really need to understand what the insurance companies are actually demanding.
Yeah, because if an insurer like Zurich is willing to risk alienating their biggest clients with a hard mandate, I mean, they must have incredible faith in a specific piece of hardware and software. They aren't just telling you to slap a cheap webcam on a pole and, hope it captures something useful. They are targeting a very specific type of project and requiring a very specific platform.
Right. They are specifically requiring a technology called Arrowsight camera coaching. And right now, this mandate applies to all construction wrap-up projects in New York.
Okay, wrap-up projects.
Yeah, Zurich is serving as the exclusive provider for this platform as they begin, rolling it out across the entire country. But that key phrase you need to pay attention to is wrap-up projects.
Actually, let's pause and clarify that for a second, because understanding the structure of a wrap-up project is crucial to understanding why Zurich even has the power to do this.
Absolutely.
For those who, might not deal with them daily, a wrap-up like an owner-controlled insurance program or a contractor-controlled insurance program, it basically means one massive insurance policy covers everyone on the job site.
Right, the owner, the general contractor, all the subs. In a traditional setup, every sub brings their own insurance. But in a wrap-up, the insurer, which in this case is Zurich, is holding the bag for every single person who steps foot on that site.
Yeah.
If a framing subcontractor's employee falls, Zurich pays, period. Because their financial exposure is absolute, they have basically dictatorial power over the safety protocols.
They can just say, if you want this policy, you play by our exact rules.
Exactly. And right now, the rule is Arrowsight.
Okay, so let's unpack this Arrowsight system, because the logistics of this are what usually trip people up. Job sites are just inherently chaotic.
They're constantly changing.
The framing changes daily, the power sources are shifting, and you certainly can't rely on having hardwired electricity right where you need a camera to monitor, say, a crane lift.
Right, and that was the massive hurdle for a long time. It's exactly why the tech had to evolve before this mandate could realistically happen.
So how are they doing it?
Well, the Arrowsight cameras being deployed are entirely battery and solar powered.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, they do not require job site electricity at all. That means as the project moves from, foundation work up to the 10th floor, the cameras literally move with the risk.
That's smart.
But honestly, the hardware is only half the story. The mechanism that is actually driving this insurance mandate, it happens overnight when the site is dark.
And I think this is where the real friction points are going to start for our listeners.
Yeah.
Because recording footage to a hard drive that sits in a dusty superintendent's trailer, that's one thing.
Sure.
But this system involves human analysts reviewing that footage overnight, right?
Exactly. By the time your crew arrives for their 6:00 a.m. huddle, your project managers already have customized Power BI dashboards and tailored 3-minute toolbox talks based on what the camera saw the day before.
It's a completely rapid-fire feedback loop.
That's the workflow, yeah.
Okay, I have to stop you there, though, and push back hard on this.
Yeah.
Because if I'm a mid-sized commercial contractor listening to this right now, the alarms in my head are deafening.
I get it, big brother.
Yes. This sounds exactly like corporate Big Brother. Isn't this just going to completely alienate the crew?
It's a huge concern.
Like, nobody wants to feel like an insurance company is spying on them for 8 hours a day. I can literally see my best foreman walking off the job because they feel like every single movement is being scrutinized just to punish them.
This raises an important question, and frankly, it should be the absolute #1 concern for every contractor looking at this technology.
Right.
If you implement this poorly, you will absolutely destroy your job site culture. But this is where we have to clarify a crucial, fundamental difference between punitive surveillance and behavioral coaching.
Okay, explain that difference.
If this system was just designed to catch guys who took their safety glasses off for 30 seconds and get them fired, it would fail spectacularly.
Yeah, the unions would completely revolt.
Morale would tank, productivity would grind to an absolute halt.
So how is it not exactly that? Because human analysts reviewing your footage overnight, I mean, that sounds inherently punitive. They're looking for mistakes.
What's fascinating here is the psychological approach the analysts are actually instructed to take. Yes, they are absolutely flagging risky behaviors.
Right.
If someone is working near a leading edge without being tied off, obviously that gets flagged. But they are equally, if not more, focused on actively looking for and flagging exemplary behaviors.
Wait, really?
Yeah. When a worker perfectly executes a dangerous lift, or a crew sets up a flawless trench box, that footage gets pulled into the dashboard too.
Okay, hold on. Do you honestly think a 20-year veteran iron worker cares about getting a gold star on a dashboard? Won't they still see this as corporate surveillance, just kind of wrapped up in a shiny, positive reinforcement package?
It's a fair pushback, but you have to look at how it actually plays out in the morning huddle. It isn't about giving a grown man a gold star. It's about peer-driven respect.
Okay, I'm listening.
When the superintendent pulls up that 3-minute toolbox talk, they aren't reading from a generic, dusty safety binder printed in 1998 about ladder safety. They're showing actual video of the crew from yesterday.
Well, that's totally different.
Right. They can say, hey, look at how smoothly the framing crew handled this specific hazard on the 3rd floor. This is the standard we need to hit today.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It shifts the entire culture from top-down punishment to peer-to-peer visual learning.
Yeah.
You are catching people doing things right and establishing that as the baseline for the site.
I see the distinction. You're building a localized standard based on reality, not just theory.
Exactly.
But even with that cultural shift, you still have to wonder, why would a massive insurance giant like Zurich stick their neck out to mandate this?
They have to know contractors are going to initially fight this tooth and nail.
To understand the mandate, you really have to follow the money. Insurers do not mandate things based on a hunch.
Obviously not.
And they certainly don't care about the warm, fuzzy feelings of a morning toolbox talk. They mandate things based on actuarial realities.
Right, the hard math.
You have to look at the undeniable, frankly shocking financial impact this specific technology is having on the bottom line. Yeah, and let's be real about the industry right now. Construction margins are razor thin. So if you're a contractor, you are initially going to view this camera mandate as a massive forced cost burden.
Oh, absolutely.
You're thinking, great, another line item I have to eat just to get on the bid list.
Yeah.
So let's break down the actual return on investment here. What is the proof that this mechanism actually works? Because I was looking at Smart Business Automator's market intelligence report, and they highlighted a massive pilot program from Suffolk Construction.
Yes, the Suffolk pilot is basically the turning point for the whole industry. According to Smart Business Automator's market intelligence report, Suffolk didn't just test this on like a small controlled custom build.
Right.
They ran a massive 3-year pilot program in New York City across 9 major projects with a combined value of over $2 billion.
Wow. Okay, $2 billion is a massive sample size with thousands of workers across different trades. So what actually happened to the injury rates over those 3 years?
The results completely altered the trajectory of their risk management. Suffolk saw a 72% reduction in the frequency of workers' comp claims on those pilot projects.
Wait, a 72% drop in heavy commercial construction?
Yep.
That is almost unheard of. I'm struggling to understand how you get from installing a camera to a 72% drop in injuries. Is it just like the Hawthorne effect? People behaving better because they know they're being watched?
Well, the Hawthorne effect is part of the initial drop, sure, but the sustained drop comes from that rapid feedback loop we talked about.
Okay.
If a crew is developing a bad habit, say improper staging of materials that creates trip hazards, the cameras catch it on Tuesday.
Right.
The toolbox talk addresses it on Wednesday morning, and the hazard is eliminated before someone trips and breaks an ankle on Thursday.
Ah, I see.
Over time, that compounding reduction in risk leads to 4 times fewer claims across the board and a 10 times lower rate of incurred financial losses.
10 times lower. That's
Yeah,
insane.
It is. Their safety compliance rate skyrocketed from an average of 70% up to near perfect levels, consistently hitting 97 to 100%.
So it's really the speed of the correction that drives the ROI. And the macro numbers back that up. Overall, Suffolk's total recordable incident rate, their TRIR, is down 70% since fiscal year 2020.
Exactly. The numbers were so undeniable that Suffolk is now deploying this technology on all of their projects.
But there is another jaw-dropping metric that really stands out here, and it's the one that directly hits the contractor's wallet. We have to talk about Posillico Inc.
Oh yeah, the EMR drop.
Yes, their experience modification rate, or EMR, dropped from 0.65 to 0.25 after adopting this approach.
And for any listener who handles the financial side of a construction business, you know exactly how significant that is.
Let's actually break down the mechanics of the EMR for a second, because this is where the competitive advantage lives.
Go for it.
Your EMR is basically the multiplier that insurance companies use to calculate your workers' comp premiums. The industry average is a 1.0. If you are a 1.2, you are paying 20% more than average.
Right.
If you are below 1.0, you get a discount. Dropping from an already excellent 0.65 down to a 0.25 isn't just about getting a nice safety plaque to hang in the corporate office.
Not at all.
That means Posillico is paying a fraction of what their competitors pay for the exact same insurance coverage. That is pure compounding profit dropping straight to the bottom line.
Exactly. And it allows them to underbid competitors while maintaining higher profit margins. It transitions safety from a compliance cost into a literal strategic weapon.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And the leadership at these companies, they recognize that the hardware alone doesn't achieve that EMR drop. Jit-Ki Chen, the chief technology officer at Suffolk, put it perfectly. She said, "The focus is on learning, and the tutorials really help change behaviors."
Right, it's the culture.
It is the human element, the coaching powered by the technology, that actually drives that ROI.
And it isn't just Suffolk and Posillico. We are seeing giants like Skanska, Tudor Perini, and Bolt all adopting this. This clearly isn't a passing fad or a trendy gimmick.
No.
This is a structural change in how risk is managed on a job site.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what we're witnessing is a fundamental macro shift in the insurance industry's entire philosophy.
How so?
For decades, the business model was incredibly simple. Insurers would look at your history, evaluate the inherent danger of the job, and then simply price the risk.
Right.
If you were a riskier contractor with a higher EMR, you just paid a higher premium and they collected the check. But now, because the technology exists to prevent the accidents in the first place, insurers are moving away from merely pricing risk. They're actively mandating risk reduction technology.
You know, we've seen this exact movie before in a different sector. Think about auto insurance, specifically for commercial fleets.
Oh, that's a perfect parallel.
Right. 10 or 15 years ago, installing a dash cam or telematics tracking in your plumbing vans was an option. Drivers hated it. They pushed back. They said it was an invasion of privacy, tracking their braking and acceleration.
Same exact complaints.
Yep. But if you did it, maybe your broker gave you a 5% discount. Fast forward to today, try getting affordable commercial auto insurance for a fleet of 50 trucks without telematics.
Good luck.
It is basically required. If you don't have it, your rates are astronomical or the underwriters just drop you entirely. We're seeing that exact same timeline play out in construction, just a few years behind.
That is a perfect analogy. The resistance phase, the adoption phase, and finally the mandate phase. And if you're wondering, why now? Why is the insurance industry pushing so hard on construction suddenly? It comes down to some very sobering industry realities that just can't be ignored.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Every single year, there are roughly 150 electrical workplace deaths, according to ESFI data. On top of that, construction remains the absolute top sector for OSHA HAZCOM violations.
Right.
These aren't just minor scrapes. These are severe incidents, tragic fatalities, and massive multi-million-dollar lawsuits. The insurers are looking at all this, looking at the Arrowsight pilot results and saying, we have the technology to prevent these catastrophic losses, so we are going to force the issue.
which lays out the stakes perfectly. And it's creating a massive divide in the industry right now. Think about it. The early adopters who embrace this shift, the ones who figure out the cultural friction and get their crews on board, are going to reap all the benefits.
Absolutely.
They get the lower premiums, which means lower overhead. That gives them a massive competitive advantage when bidding on tight jobs against guys who are paying double for workers' comp.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to have fewer OSHA interactions, disrupting their critical path schedules, and ultimately better worker retention. Because frankly, despite the initial skepticism about cameras, crews want to work on sites where they actually feel safe and supported.
And on the other side of that divide, the resistors, the companies that drag their feet, complain about the cost, and fight the cameras on principle.
What happens to them?
They are going to face skyrocketing premiums. They'll see severe coverage restrictions, or in the worst case scenario we talked about at the top of the show, they will simply lose their eligibility for major contracts because they cannot secure the required wrap-up insurance.
Okay, so understanding the macro landscape is one thing. But if you are a mid-sized contractor listening to this right now, digesting all these numbers and sensing the urgency, you need to know exactly what steps to take.
Right, you need a plan.
Let's make this actionable. We need to build a playbook so our listeners can get ahead of this before their insurance broker calls them with an ultimatum. What's the strategy?
There is a very clear, proactive strategy you need to initiate right now. Step 1 is simple, but crucial. Call your insurance broker today.
Not tomorrow.
Do not wait for your annual renewal meeting. Call them and ask point blank about any upcoming video monitoring requirements or mandates coming down the pipeline for your specific policies or the types of projects you bid on. You want to hear it from them first while you have time to plan, not read it in a fine print notice 30 days before your coverage lapses.
Absolutely. But before you make that call, you'd better know your own numbers. You can't have a strategic conversation with a broker if you don't know your baseline.
That's step 2.
Right. You need to calculate your true, fully burdened safety costs. Pinpoint exactly what incidents are costing your business right now. What are you paying in workers' comp premiums? What is your current EMR actually costing you in lost margin?
It's all connected.
Add in the cost of lost time when an incident shuts down a site, and any OSHA penalties you've absorbed over the last 3 years. You need that baseline number so you can measure the true ROI when you implement the tech.
That's a critical point. You cannot manage what you haven't measured. Once you know your numbers and you've talked to your broker, the next phase is to understand the technology landscape. We've talked a lot about Arrowsight because they are Zurich's exclusive partner for this specific New York rollout.
Right.
But they're not the only player in the broader market. You need to start researching the different platforms, understanding how they integrate with your current project management software, and seeing which ones fit the scale and culture of your operations.
Right. Do your homework now so you aren't forced into a vendor you hate at the last minute because you're just desperate for coverage. So once you pick a platform, how do you actually roll it out without causing a mutiny?
You run a tightly controlled pilot. Do not try to install cameras on 30 job sites tomorrow.
Yeah, that sounds like a disaster.
It would be. Pick your single highest risk project. Maybe it's a job with complex staging, heavy crane lifts, or a lot of high elevation work. Put 2 or 3 cameras on that one site.
Just a few.
Let your team get used to the workflow. Let the superintendents get comfortable delivering those morning toolbox talks based on video. Work out the cultural and technical kinks on a small scale where you can manage the narrative.
And picking that pilot site doesn't have to be a guessing game.
Yeah.
According to Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report, there's been a massive 500% spike in queries for safety management software just in the last few weeks as contractors wake up to this trend.
Wow.
Yeah. But what's incredibly useful is that Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report also details how its own risk monitoring features can analyze your current portfolio and flag exactly which of your specific projects would benefit the most from an immediate camera deployment.
Oh, that's brilliant.
You use your own project data to target the highest risk areas instantly.
Which is exactly the kind of proactive thinking that separates the companies that scale from the companies that stagnate. You have to leverage data to anticipate the hurdles before you trip over them. And that brings us to the final step of the playbook.
Which is,
once you have run that pilot, you take the behavioral data you've gathered, you take your newly improved safety metrics and your lowering EMR, and you use them to aggressively negotiate lower insurance premiums.
make them pay for it, essentially.
Exactly. You go back to your broker and say, look at the risk we just eliminated from our site, price our policy accordingly.
That is exactly how you turn a burdensome mandate into a distinct, competitive advantage. So we've covered the technology, the psychological shift from surveillance to coaching, the undeniable financial impact of a lowered EMR, and the exact strategic steps you need to take right now.
We covered a lot of ground today.
We did. And I want to leave you with a paradigm shift to mull over as you head out to your sites today. Stop looking at safety technology as a pesky insurance requirement.
Yeah.
Stop looking at it as just another annoying line item expense eating into your margins. What if having the absolute best, most transparent safety tech infrastructure becomes the deciding factor that wins you your next massive bid?
It's entirely possible.
Because owners, developers, and general contractors are looking at risk too. If you aren't using safety as a proactive, aggressive business strategy to lower your costs and win trust, you are already behind your competitors who are.
It is no longer just about basic compliance. I mean, it is about competitive dominance in a tight market.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to Scaling Legends, rate, review, and share this with colleagues or your team who need to hear this.
Absolutely.
And to learn how you can scale your construction business without drowning in paperwork, visit smartbusinessautomator.com to see how their AI platform automates daily logs, organizes project documents, and catches schedule risks before they cost you money. So when your insurance company calls you tomorrow morning about putting cameras on your job site, wait, sorry, no pauses. So when your insurance company calls you tomorrow morning about putting cameras on your job site, you'll know exactly what to say and exactly how to profit from it.